Here we have an Asus laptop that came in locally. The customer said that he took this laptop to a shop in Los Angeles and they told him it's a motherboard issue and they're not able to fix it. He searched online and he found us and he came here in hopes that we can help him fix the laptop. The laptop has no signs of power at all. We already disassembled the board. But one thing I can tell you right off the bat, I see Flux at the charging connector area of the motherboard. The pins look factory to me, but I do not know what the Flux is all about here. If we flip the board, and we can tell the joints are factory. We have the supporting legs right here, and those pins are soldered on nicely. No problems at all. Why don't we start by supplying voltage to the board? We're going to plug the charging cable, and we're going to see if 19 volts is reaching the rest of the board. Charging cable is plugged in, and let's measure at the connector to see if the connector is actually working. I do not see any replaced components, but we do see flux and signs of soldering at the connector. If we measure the connector right here, we should have 19 volts, and we have 19.78, and we have 19.78. And if we measure at the MOSFETs, usually I start by measuring for a short, but because of the signs of flux, I plug the cable in to see if we have 19 volts, and we have 19.78. That's good. We should have 19.78 here also, and we have 0. What about the gate? Should be slightly higher than 20 volts. We are getting 0, and of course we're going to have 0 here, and we have a 0 here. Oh, and we have 4.6 volts here. So we know that 19 volts is not passing through. We have 4.6 volts here. We should have 19 here and 19 here, but we have 4 volts here. So current sense is going to have 4.6 here, and 4.6 volts is being supplied to the board. That's a one-of-a-kind issue. It's usually a short circuit on the drain of this MOSFET, which leads to a short circuit on the V-core circuit of the motherboard or something else. But today it's a whole different issue. 4.6 volts here. What's causing 4.6 volts? That's a very good question. Let me unplug. Right now, before we proceed to inspecting the rest of the board, we have to think logical. It could be any one of those two MOSFETs causing 4.6 here. And to be honest, I haven't seen this MOSFET go bad on any of the Asus laptops I've worked on before. We're going to have to do a process of elimination. It's a good thing I'm wearing gloves, because every time I work on an Asus laptop, I end up with thermal paste on my fingers. Every time. And I try to be careful. Look at this. So now we're going to plug the charging cable in and see if we have 19 volts at the source of the MOSFET. We have 19 here, and we have 1.3 here. 1 volt here. I highly doubt the problem is the MOSFET. It's probably something that controls the gate. I do not know what part of the circuit controls the gate on this MOSFET. I do not have any circuit diagrams for this board. I do not have any board diagrams, and I do not want to go into a rabbit hole trying to figure out what supplies voltage to the gate. We can tell the MOSFET is connecting with the cap, with the resistors, and going to somewhere back of the board. Let's flip the board and see what's on back of the board. Right here, we have nothing. It could really be anything on back of the board. I do not know what supplies voltage to the gate. Let's measure those MOSFETs in diode mode. We do not have a short. We do not have a short. We're going to assume those MOSFETs are good. And if we measure, quickly measure those 0 ohm resistors, and nothing looks obvious. What about this guy right here? The board looks mint, super clean. Why don't we remove this MOSFET and see what happens? And what happens if we plug the charging cable now? I want to monitor the gate voltage mode. We have 19.78 and we have 0 at the gate. Those two MOSFETs are used for protection. If you happen to plug in a charging cable with the wrong polarity, they're going to protect the motherboard. We can attempt to jump the drain of this MOSFET to the drain of that MOSFET and see what happens. But Alex, I thought you know everything about Asus laptops. Who said? I did figure out a lot of issues with Asus laptops, but I certainly do not know everything about how this board functions. Not yet. Every day I discover new faults, new issues. And that's how I learned how to fix Asus laptops. Not because there's a manual that you can follow, read schematics, read board diagrams. Most of the laptops do not have circuit diagrams or board views. So we have to manually just use common sense to figure out faults. Okay, let's see what happens if we supply voltage now. Let me grab my goggles because I feel like the store is going to burn down as soon as I plug the charging cable. And you can put your goggles also, because some of you still believe that UV light from my UV lamp can get through the screen to your TV or screen and hurt your eyes. So put on your goggles and fasten your seat belts. We have 19.7 and we have 19.7. Very good. So we have 19.7 here. Let me just quickly monitor the board under a thermal camera and see if there's anything obvious before I give it to Big Boss to reassemble and test. Because I know that we do not have a short. As long as we do not have a short, then what we did is safe. The charger is plugged in right here. That's the charger. And look at the board. No unusual heat anywhere on the board. And that's awesome. Let's see. I'm going to give it to Big Boss to reassemble. And I'll be back to let you know how it went. I'm back. And what we did not fix the problem. We're going to desolder the wire and we're going to put the MOSFETs back. And we're going to have to look elsewhere. I think I will still post the video to get your input. And hopefully we can get this board fixed. Right now, I honestly do not know where to look. But we're going to go over the board. We're going to measure MOSFETs on the board. We're going to look for anything unusual, visual inspection, capacitors, components, burnt components, blown components. Maybe we'll come across something. I mean, we supplied 19 volts all the way here and nothing got out on the board. So we know it's not a short circuit. All right, we're good. Those 4 pins, they connect to each other. Same here, and same here. So we do not get a viewer that writes a comment, how come this is bridged with this? What planet are you living on? and nothing stands out as being faulty. And of course we're not going to have any V-core short, because any short here would have showed up on the DC power MOSFETs, the one that we just removed. I mean, we are not getting any heat on the board even after we passed 19 volts through the board. CPU did not get hot, PCH did not get hot, GPU did not get hot, VRAMs, nothing. If we flip the board, and that's our charging port right here, PS840-9A. That's an HDMI jitter cleaning repeater, so it has nothing to do with power. And that's audio. I mean, if only 4.6 volts is reaching the board, most of the voltage rails will be missing on the board. I don't know. I'm gonna post the video. Let me know your input, and maybe, just maybe, we can get this board fixed and we can all learn something from this one. Let me know. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you again in the next video.